Well guys, check this beautiful sunset that's happening here. I'm busy doing up my farm duties as I've got no staff on the farm at the moment, so feeding all the horses and feeding all the cows and calves that need to be fed. So this is my second attempt of filming the final episode for season 2. It's episode 10 of Stalking Shadows, and this is a really cool story. I met a lovely couple by the name of Larry and Norma. They came out, and their buddy Michael Loskins, he came out, and they came with a group to hunt in South Africa. And the guy who put the group together was Paul, and he's a taxidermist over in the States, and they own their own hunting company in the States. So we got to meet this lovely group of guys and guests that came out, and this was a really interesting hunt, because this was a hunt where I had to think out of the box, and this is where I go on and on with young guys getting into the industry. You got to be able to adapt as you go on. This property was one of those ranches where they had game breeding as part of it, and had big open, or big areas where it was hunting, and sections where you could hunt other species. So it was a massive property, but it had been sectioned off into 4 pieces. So Larry had come out with his wife to hunt SA, and he wasn't really fit and able. He walked with a cane, so the walk and stalk was out of the question for this specific safari. Mike, on the other hand, was able, and we tried to do as much walk and stalk with him as possible. So we started our hunt off at the shooting range. Larry used the company's 30-06, and he shot perfectly with it at the shooting range. And Mike brought out his 338, and he shot extremely well at the shooting range. And off we went, and we started our hunt. We took an afternoon drive that day, and we drove up the mountain, and we bumped into a troop of baboons, and Mike fired 2-3 shots at them and managed to connect on a young male. And we've got some photos of us with the young male there. It was a great way to start off the safari. And we carried on traveling through the property, showing the guys more or less what we're hunting, where we're hunting. And we came around a corner, and the opportunity was there to shoot a beautiful blue wildebeest bull. And Mike didn't hesitate, and he smoked a blue wildebeest bull. Beautiful old bull. So that was our day one. We headed back to the lodge. The guys were skinning off. That evening I got to, chat with the guys a bit more, got to know everyone a bit better, in preparation to do our hunt the next morning. But what I haven't told you guys was that I had to get Larry up and down onto the back of my truck, because he was going to shoot from the pickup. And the thing with that was, my truck didn't have stairs. Every professional hunter has their own setup on their rig. I had an open V gate at the back, where you climbed by the tailgate on the back bumper, through the V gate and on. But we had to think out of the box to get Larry onto the truck every morning to start our hunt. So what we did was, I saw a bow butt that the guys had been practicing, a big yellow bow butt, which gave me the right height. When I put it next to my truck and we opened the tailgate, it was a step for Larry to climb on, and then onto the tailgate and into the truck, and got himself set up on the bench. And we popped a sandbag up there for him, and that was where he was comfortable for his safari. So that morning we went out, and Larry was after a really nice nyala bull, and we knew in the one area there was a really nice bull, very narrow, long, tall horns with big white tips. And we got out nice and early because the nyala tend to feed out into the clearings early, and then the rest of the day they spend their time in the thickets in the thorn trees. So with that, on our way down there, the tracker spotted the nyala bull. It had just fed out onto the edge. We managed to get in there, and Larry got set up, and he shot this beautiful nyala bull. With that, it went down. It was a one-shot kill. We headed on over, and now it was to do our first setup for a photograph. So those of you who've experienced SA, we set our animals up nicely. The clients sit down behind them, or if it's a small animal, you lie down behind it. Now with Larry being a little bit stiff in the joints, I took that bow button and we put that down, and we covered it with my camo jacket so the yellow didn't stick out, or we used someone else's jacket that he sat on that. And that's how we had to set up our photos. And every time we shot an animal, we had to think about how we were going to present this animal for Larry's photographs. So we got that, and that was out the way, and we carried on hunting. And I remember Larry wanting to shoot a white blesbuck, and where we shot the nyala in the same area, there was a beautiful herd of white blesbuck, and we went off after them. And guys, bucky stalking is not the best and is not the easiest when you are hunting on a property which has had a lot of hunting pressure. The animals tend to spot the vehicles, and they are spooky. But luckily for me, Larry was quite a crack shot, and we were getting 200, 250, and then eventually I said, okay, Larry, there's a nice big white ram. You can shoot that one. And he made a pin perfect one-shot kill. Boom, and that one went down. With this, we were also looking for a common blesbuck for Mike. So we got Mike set up on a common, and no, we didn't shoot in that area. We hunted in the afternoon in a different area, and we got onto a bachelor herd of common blesbuck, and Mike got himself a common blesbuck. So our hunt was progressing along nicely, where we were getting 2-3 animals as we went along. And the next day we went out for buffalo. This would have been my first buffalo that I've guarded on my own without having another head PH supervising me. So this was my first buff hunt. But now, unfortunately, it was too dangerous to get Larry off the pickup and do the proper walk and stalk for buff. So we had to hunt from the pickup. The buff were in this long piece of property, and there was this, if I can remember correctly, there were these thorn trees that weave down a dry riverbed where the buffalo tend to disappear and hide in this riverbed, and then they also would feed out into the opening. So again, we got up at the crack of dawn. We headed across there after a quick breakfast, and we got into our glassing point, and with luck, all the buff were out in the clearing. And we managed to make an approach with the truck, and the buff weren't scared of the truck. They stood out in the open. We got to about 100, 150 yards away, and Paul was with us this time, who's, as I mentioned, is a taxidermist. And I've sorted through the bulls. There were a lot of young bulls. There were some soft boss bulls. We were looking for a real old gnarly bull. So eventually 2 bulls stood to the side. They were the hard boss bulls. They kind of stepped away from the herd, and I showed Larry that one is beautiful and symmetric. He's about a 37, 38 inch bull. But the one next to him is the one that I would shoot. He's got this massive big helmet. He's got a bloomed off tip. It's broken on the one side. And I would guess he was probably about a 36 inch bull. But old gnarly bull, big heavy bosses. So he discussed it with Paul on the back of the truck, and they also agreed with me that that old bull is the one that they want. And with a 375 Sacco, Larry made this pin perfect shot, thumped this bull, and he took 2-3 steps, stood there, and fell over. And that was really, really awesome to get that perfect shot, because the approach and everything, I would have to have done the backup, and Larry wouldn't have been able to finish his bull off. So when his bull went down, I asked Larry to place a second shot between the shoulder blades. He fell with his back towards us, and he must shoot it between the shoulder blades, hitting it on the spine. And guys, we do this for insurance. Any young professional hunter that wants to get into dangerous game, it's a no-brainer. If it goes down, put another bullet in it. A dead buffalo has killed more people than a live one, because you walk up on it, you think it's dead, up, and it steamrolls you. So when Larry had finished putting his second shot in, unfortunately, this buff did not do its death bellow, which they don't all do it, guys, but normally it's a telltale when they hit the ground and they start bellowing and they're busy dying. This one didn't do it. So I approached the buff from the tail. Guys, this was another tip from me. An old PH that I sat around the fire with, and we chatted about dangerous game and his experiences. And he said, if there's one thing that you can take from the conversations with me, is if you're going to approach a buffalo, make sure that you approach it from the tail. And then being young, I asked him, why approach it from the tail? Don't poke it on the eyeball. He says, no. He says, if you poke it on the tail and it's not dead and it can stand up and get up, it's going to get up and go away from you first before he turns. And by that stage, you'll be able to shoot him again, either going away from you or when he turns and he comes at you. When you approach him from the front and you poke him on the eyeball, he is going to jump straight up and steamroll your ass to the floor. And that's what you don't want. So that is a great tip for young professional hunters getting into dangerous game. Always approach from the tail. Then you know that it's going to get up and hopefully give you enough time for it to turn so you can shoot it and it won't injure you. So this place was quite awesome. It had guys ready there to come and load up. It was a little bit of a factory farm in that sense, where you had a lot of staff there to help you. The outfitter literally wanted you just to print. So you had to shoot as much as you can, and the clients' animals could be collected by a recovery team, or when we hunted giraffe and buffalo and all that stuff, a big JCB front end loader used to come load them up and take them to the skinning shed. So this outfit is very much shoot. The more you shoot, the better it is, obviously, for him. So the JCB came and collected this animal and took it back so we could carry on with the rest of our hunt for that morning, because we were done quite early in the morning, so we could carry on. So with that, we headed out to look for springbuck, and Larry was after white springbuck. We found a beautiful white springbuck. He smoked that one, and we used an anthill to take our photographs, so Larry didn't have to get so low down because it was a smaller animal. And with that, we got that beautiful picture. And in the afternoon, we were out and about and concentrating a bit more on Mike getting something. And that afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, Mike pulled off a cracker of a shot with his 338 on a black wildebeest bull. Beautiful big black wildebeest bull. And he pulled off a cracker of a shot on a beautiful springbuck ram. So Mike got 2 animals that afternoon, and that was us for the day. The next morning, Mike headed off with Paul to another property with another PH. They were going to go look for fallow deer and kudu. If memory serves me correctly, Mike managed to get an awesome kudu bull there. Unfortunately, I don't have photos of that one. But myself and Larry and Norma went around, and we were after a zebra. And we eventually got a group of zebra in amongst a thorn tree thicket where we could park up and we could just wait for the zebra to come out, that I could pick the stallion for Larry to shoot. And with a bit of patience, The zebra made it through a clearing, and I said to Larry, there's the one. And I told him to aim in the triangle, and he smoked it, perfect in the triangle, and down went the zebra stallion. And this photograph where the zebra fell was a little bit awkward. We couldn't get him set up too well, so I stuck the trackers behind him. You'll see maybe in the photograph under the chin, you can see, I think it's the tracker's head. And just trying to get that perfect photograph, because again, guys, it takes months and months and months for these guys to get their trophies back home. And the thing that they take back with them is the photograph and the memories. So spend the time to take the perfect photographs for your clients. And make sure if it's not a good photograph, reassess, reset it up, and try again, because that's super important for the clients when they head back to the States. So we got that out the way, and a lot was happening in this whole hunt, because obviously I had Paul joining, and then I had Mark joining, and then I had Larry joining. So I'm going to get the timeline a little bit mixed up. I'm just trying to remember all the species that we went after. So with that, when Mark came back, I think the next day we went out and we went after gemsbuck, white springbuck, common reedbuck, and ponterbok. They were in the one property that we went after. And I remember shooting a beautiful white springbuck ram with Mark, and got that all loaded up. And then we went after the gemsbuck, and the gemsbuck gave us the slip. So then that afternoon we went back out into the area looking for gemsbuck, and we spotted a really awesome red lechwe bull. And this time Paul was with us, and he's hunted South Africa many a time, and he was in the back with Larry and I was in the front. Normally I've got the tracker driving and I'm on the back, and I can, assess the situation, make sure that Larry's pointing at the right animal. And there was a young bull standing 80 yards from us, and the big bull was about 150 yards from us. And Paul was explaining to Larry to shoot the big bull, but Larry didn't pick up the big bull. He picked up the young bull, and he fired his shot, and the young bull fell down. And he said, oh shit, he didn't see the right bull. With that evening, I was chatting to Larry and talking about, you shot the wrong one. We'll go after the bigger one tomorrow. Don't stress. He explained to me that he had lost sight, his vision in his right eye, and he's had to teach himself how to shoot left-handed. And I was going, man, this oak's a crack shot. If I put him on it, he's straight on, and he's taught himself. So I take my hat off to the guy. He's come to Africa. He's not as mobile as he should be. He's lost vision in his right eye, and he's taught himself to shoot left-handed. So the next morning we went out, and I think we spotted a common reedbuck, and we got that out the way, and we saw the bontebuck, and Larry got himself a bontebuck, and we hunted hard for that lechwe, and we found it, and we shot that lechwe bull. Really nice lechwe bull. So then that late afternoon we went out for gemsbuck. And you'll see in the photograph, the photographs are really dark. It was probably about this light when we saw it as the sun was setting. And we made a perfect shot on this gemsbuck bull. And Larry was super stoked that he'd got himself a beaut of a gemsbuck bull. So that was the day up and done. And we got quite a few animals out of the way in that day. And then the next day started, and we went out with Mark. Now, Mark had hunted with the other guys to hunt kudu. Then we shot the white springbuck. So now it was after red hartebeest, black springbuck, impala. Those were the type of animals that Mark was after. And I knew there was a great bachelor herd of red hartebeest, and we headed out after those. And we found the herd. Man, oh man, Mark was pulling his shots. One after the other, he was pulling his shots. Eventually, I said to him, just pack your rifle away. There might be something wrong with it. Grab my rifle. Let's go after the red hartebeest. And my rifle was a 30-06. It had a suppressor on. And he lined up this red hartebeest, and he smoked it. He shot it a little far back. We followed it up, and he smoked it a second time, and that was it. And he was getting a bit frustrated with himself because he was worried that we were taking away hunting time from Larry. Um, and that wasn't the case. We took some awesome photos of the red hartebeest, and in this area there were black springbuck, and a bachelor group of black springbuck came out, and we picked a really nice ram, and he made a perfect shot with that pin perfect shot. So that was really nice because I think it was just building his confidence up using my rifle and wasn't missing anything. So we headed on back to the lodge, and at just after lunch we headed to the shooting range again with his rifle to check what had gone wrong. So I said to Mike, you give it to me. Let me have a shot with it. If I can't hit the pool where you were shooting the day you arrived, then we'll be able to assess that, okay, there's something wrong with your rifle. We're going to just take an element out of the situation. So I sat down there, don't know his rifle from a barb shot, and I shot the page and I hit the bull. And I fired a second shot and this thing creeped perfectly. But holy smokes, did it kick like a mule on a good night. It really, really thumped you. But one thing I was noticing on his rifle, that the trigger was extremely, extremely heavy. And on a large caliber rifle, you don't want to have a very heavy trigger because you are anticipating that absolute donkey kick. So rather have a lighter trigger. Another tip, guys, on your bigger calibers, so that when you are settled in and your shot goes off, it goes off. You're not still squeezing in anticipation for the good old recoil thump. So I said to Mark, look, you're flinching badly with your rifle. Rather pack it away and let's finish your trip on a high with my 30-06. And we carry on hunting with it to just keep your confidence up. But when you get home, get the gunsmith to swap this trigger out, and then you'll have the perfect weapon. So off we went. We carried on. I'm just trying to think now, what else were we after? Paul came with us this afternoon, and we went after a black springbuck and a black wildebeest for Paul and a black springbuck for Larry. So we managed to get set up on some black springbuck, and Larry made a cracker of a shot. And we got the black springbuck, but now it's in the clearing, guys. There's not an anthill inside. Now I'm trying to figure out how we're going to set this animal up for a photograph for Larry. And I had a little red cooler on the back which had all our waters, and I took the cooler and then we set the springbuck up on top of the cooler and put Larry on the bow butt behind, and that's how we got our photograph for the black springbuck. So we got that all out the way. Everyone is happy, and then we spotted a herd of black wildebeest in the distance, and myself and Paul took off on foot, and we managed to get set up in some thorn trees, and we spotted a big black wildebeest pool with a piece of his boss kind of like deformed or chunked out, and that's the one that Paul decided to take, and he made a pin perfect shot. One down it went, and we had this beautiful black wildebeest pool that I know Paul went and actually did a full mount on it for something different. So that was an awesome animal to take there. And that was the day. It was afternoon. The next day we headed out, and we saw a steenbuck for Larry. We managed to get Larry to shoot a steenbuck. It was late evening. Got a nice steenbuck, and again, guys, trying to figure out how to take photographs of the steenbuck. We actually got Larry sitting on the bow butt with the steenbuck on his lap, because normally with these small animals, we lie the clients behind them, and Larry wasn't going to lie on the grass to take his photograph and then struggle to get back up off the ground. So we got that photo set up with him and Norma, and the sun was setting. And then the next day we went out. What did we find? We found an awesome impala for Mark, and he was back on track again with his one-shot kills, and he shot a beautiful impala. And then that evening we were out and about for a steenbuck for Paul, and if I'm not mistaken, Paul grabbed the rifle and there were only like 4 rounds in the rifle, and he made a shot on the steenbuck, and it wasn't a good enough shot. But if you know steenbuck, they run in their bed. If you get yourself on a high point, you can kind of follow them. And he made another 2 shots, and he missed. And eventually we got close enough, and I was like, "Have you got more ammo?" He says, "No, he didn't grab any." I said, "Well, I don't have any in my pocket." He was down to one bullet. And I said, "Bud, you better make this last one count. Otherwise, we're going to be chasing this thing all night." And he made a cracker of a shot and got himself an awesome steenbok ram that late evening. So with that, I can't think of much else that we've got left to hunt. I know Mike had a warthog, so we headed to another property, and it was a miserable windy day. We got onto the cliffs, looking down into the clearings, grass clearings. We spot the wind, they'd spook. And on this property, there were these massive big washouts, erosion washouts from years and years of poor farming, and then the rains washed these out. So I said to him, let's get into these erosions and we'll walk in the erosions out the wind, and then we'll just keep peeping, to see if the pigs are in the flats and stuff like that. And while we're walking through these erosions, two warthog walk straight out and walk, like almost want to walk into the erosion with us. And I just said, "Mike, there it is." And I don't have even had time to aim. He just like bang, and he shot it. And we got ourselves a awesome warthog. But just by pot luck, being in the right place at the right time. So we finished up a safari with a bunch of animals. I made some really good friends, and at the end of the hunt, I was like saying to Larry, I said, "Larry, find me on Facebook. We can catch up there, keep in contact. Norma's on Facebook." And Larry started laughing. He says, "Wayne, I'm too old for Facebook." He says, "Give me your postal address." So I gave him my postal address. He says, "I will send you a letter." So at the end of it, he went home. I didn't think anything of it. And a few months later, I got a letter from Larry. And it was an awesome letter just thanking me for what I did and how I approached the whole hunt, making everything lighthearted and easy. And he thoroughly enjoyed his trip with me. And he he sent me some photographs of some of the animals that we hunted, and I really took that to heart, because that meant I did an excellent job, and I really went out of my way to look after the clients. So if there's any tip out there for a young professional hunter getting into the industry, look after your clients, guys. They are the most important thing on your whole safari. Try and give them the best experience possible. It's not all about shooting the biggest and the best animals. It's all about the hunt and the hunting experience. Yes, we are guides. We are there to show them the best quality animals, and I think that is super important. Oh, before I end this all off, Larry had previously hunted in Limpopo, and he hadn't got himself a really big kudu. So the one afternoon where we went hunting was a spot where there was a blind where they'd been feeding the game, and there were salt licks and stuff. So I popped him in there for the afternoon with the tracker to shoot a baboon. The baboon came down. Yeah, this is such a big hunt that I kind of forget everything. Baboon came down, and Larry smoked a female baboon, and we got a photograph of him on the tailgate of the truck sitting next to his baboon. And then late afternoon, we went back into that area because there was a kudu bull there that we knew of that we were after for Larry. And we got set up on this hill looking down into the thorn trees, and we spotted the kudu cows coming out. And with that, the bull came out at the back, and I was on the back with Larry, and I was trying to walk him through shooting it. Can you see them? And obviously with his vision, the distance we were looking at was about 300 meters, and he was struggling to see the kudu. So he had to try and look in the scope, and then eventually he spotted the kudu cow, and I was like, okay, you see the kudu cow, you can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth one is the bull. He's just sticking out of the thorn trees. Just make sure, and eventually he spotted it. And I said, well, if you're sure you can see the horns, aim on the shoulder, and that's your bull. And he made the most perfect shot to finish up with a beautiful kudu bull on the safari. And he hadn't shot one on his previous trip. He shot a small bull, but this was a really nice old bull, no teeth, very thick horns. And I think that's what made him so appreciative of of me being his guide was the fact that I really went out of my way to try and make the hunt as best as I could. And I think that is so important. So if any young guys are watching this and enjoy these stories, just take something from them is just be honest and hunt hard. Your clients will appreciate you for it, and think out of the box. Nothing's always simple and planned. You got to be prepared. If it doesn't go right, make another plan. So if you're enjoying these guys, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.